What's up? So today we're going to be taking a look at the current state of Fortnite and looking at 10 things that the community wants back into the new chapter. With the end of Fortnite Chapter 1 and the beginning of Chapter 2, a lot of changes took place. And while I think overall it's been a very well received by the community, not quite everything has been so. The community misses a ton of stuff from Chapter 1, and what I wanted to do in this video is look at 10 of the more realistic things that maybe we could possibly see return. So we're not just going to be looking at any 10 things, but 10 more realistic things in the game. Also, as of the day I'm recording this video, it is my birthday. When you're watching this, it's not, but today it is, so you are obligated to subscribe to the channel. I mean, are you really going to not subscribe to me on my birthday? On my birthday. Also, please leave a like for my birthday, and let's get into it. All right, so the first thing on our list that I wanted to talk about are launch pads. I think by far the most missed and requested thing, but also shocking thing to be removed from Chapter 1 are launch pads. Launch pads were one of the first ever updates for Fortnite, so they've been with us for over 2 years, and despite us getting a new fresh map, it's been with us so long that it almost felt like they would never go away. I think people kind of viewed the launch pad in the same sense as the spike trap, and people were very shocked to see this removed. So for a very fair reason, I'm not surprised to see that a lot of people miss them. By the way, make sure to watch all the way through and comment at the end, because I'm very curious to see what you guys most want to see back or what you most miss. Anyways though, with launch pads, I feel like it isn't quite as simple as Epic ever just straight up bringing them back. While launch pads are used to some extent as a mobility item, I find more so they're used offensively. I mean, how many times have you had a team of sweats just launch pad in on you and delete your entire Fortnite career? It's not fun, and despite a lot of people missing launch pads, I think this is the exact reason that Epic took them out. They wanted to slow down the game with less mobility, and if they were to add launch pads in, it would take that away. But moving on to number 9, and something that I think might be a little bit more feasible, is actually bringing back the ATK. I think overall, any way you spin it, the number one thing people have been asking for to return to Fortnite is more mobility. In Chapter 10, all we had were hoverboards and mechs, which wasn't really great for mobility, and now, again, we don't really have a lot. Again, we know the purpose of this is to slow down the game, encourage sort of those far away fights that slowly push together, rather than just the absolute insane sweat pushes. But I see a lot of people saying they want another vehicle to return, and I think the ATK is actually a very likely one. The ATK kind of fills the criteria of adding more mobility to run from the storm, get to where you need to go, without really increasing that insane push factor. It's something that you won't use to push enemies as it's fairly slow and vulnerable, but you can use it to outrun the storm, which is exactly what the community is looking for. So ATKs are kind of the go-to thing that a lot of people have been suggesting to return for this reason. Now moving on to number 8, we gotta talk about the old pump shotgun. The pump shotgun has been severely tweaked this season, and a lot of the community is upset with that. I mean, we talked about this in our ranking guns video, but it feels like now the pump is very spread out in terms of being both really good in the upper ends and really bad in the lower ends of it. But a lot of people have been calling for the pump to be, I guess, kind of restored to its former glory. I think what this mainly means is making the blue pump be able to one-shot for a perfect headshot. So that would either take it from doing 90 damage to 100 or simply just increase the headshot multiplier. And then the same thing could maybe be done for the purple, where you take it from doing 100, needing to get that perfect headshot, and take it up to maybe 105 or 110 where the gold is at, so that it's got a little bit of give. No one's calling for the pump to go back to what it was in the early days of like double pump and sniper pump. However, I think it could use a little bit of a buff. So I don't mind if the green and especially gray are going to be a little bit bad, but I would like to see an improvement at least on the blue, purple, and gold. Or, you know, even just increase the odds of finding a purple and gold, because you never see those weapons ever. Now moving on to our number 7 spot, I want to talk about tilted towers. So we haven't seen a tilted towers type location since season 8. been quite some time. And a lot of people have just been commenting that they miss a Tilted Towers type location. And so people maybe not even are wanting Tilted Towers back, but more so just a spot that was like this, that was extremely popular, that had tons of chests. I would say the closest place we have to a Tilted is probably Lazy Lake, as it's somewhat in the middle and has a lot of chests, but really, it's just not quite there. Now, there's a very good reason that Epic hasn't put in a Tilted, because once you have a main central location like that, you get the entire map going there. That speeds up the early game as everybody goes there and dies off the bat, and then slows down even more the late game. So it's very calculated why Epic really didn't try for an insane like Tilted Towers type spot to start off the map, but I know a lot of people are really wanting a place like this to return. It's probably not something we're gonna see in this first season, but maybe season 2 or 3, you could expect a Tilted type location. But moving on to number 6, something that I think is a little bit more realistic are improvements to the OG location. So with the Chapter 2 map, Epic brought back Pleasant Park, Salty, and Retail Row. And all 3 of these locations are worse with less loot as compared to their predecessors in the Chapter 1 map. Now, I think the reason that Epic did this was to give you a place that was familiar, but not make it super OP so that that was the only place you would land. Instead, you kind of realize quickly that the new locations are a whole lot better, so while you still feel familiar to the map, you go to the other places and, you get to try everything out. But at this point, we're now already a few weeks in and, people are starting to get familiar with these locations. So maybe it might make sense that in a few weeks or a few months, Epic is going to start improving our OG spots. Things like adding a gas station or a house just outside of one of these places, or adding basements. I mean, especially for Salty that only has like 14 chests, that's one of the biggest things, is there's just not enough loot. Same goes with Pleasant Park at only having 16. There really just isn't a viable source for doing anything more than really duos. I mean, squads if you're the only people that land there, but it's just been tough to land at the OG spots. And it's great to land at the new spots, but sometimes you miss being able to drop at the OG spots and actually get good loot. So that's something that I know a lot of people have been asking for. Now, moving on to number 5, something actually regarding Halloween. With Fort Nightmares finally added back into the game, a lot of people have been calling for Shadow Stones to return. Obviously, the timing of this request is because of Halloween, but I think, again, it all comes back to mobility. People are just looking for better ways to get around the map, because running, I think, is getting old pretty quickly. Again, the problem that arises with something like Shadow Stones is it's going to allow really good players to play even more aggressively and push, but a lot of people want to see these back. It was one of the staples of last year's Halloween events, so I'm kind of surprised to not see it. Now, moving on to number 4, let's talk about guns. So overall, I think Epic did a very good job of balancing and simplifying the weapon pool. I see all kinds of comments of people saying they want the heavy sniper back, they want the combat shotgun back, the Zapatron, the TAC SMG, and I don't think it's realistic to ask for any of these weapons. I mean, yeah, you totally might miss it, but I don't know if we're ever gonna get them. Not anytime soon, anyways. Now, Epic was very intentional in the way they balanced and simplified things, but there is one weapon class that I think we could see returning, and a lot of people have been asking for it. And that is a long-ranged rifle. So if you want to talk range in Fortnite, it basically goes shotguns, SMGs, the pistol, the normal assault rifle, the burst assault rifle, and then snipers. You've got a little bit more on there, but that's basically how things go. And there's a twofold complaint that I've been seeing a lot of people make. The first comes from players that do not like the burst, myself included. I've always said this, but due to Bloom, it's just really not an effective long-range weapon, and really I'd rather just use the normal AR or SCAR. And so, since the burst is not all that effective at any longer range, the next weapon up from there in range is the sniper. So if you kind of look at the range of weapons, everything feels very fluid until you get to the AR and then make that jump to the sniper. The burst really doesn't cover that range at all, so a lot of people have been calling for a sort of longer range rifle to return. I mean, this could take the form in many ways, but most primarily people have been saying either the scoped AR, the thermal scoped AR, the infantry rifle, or the classic heavy. Personally, and I think the thing that would make the most sense is actually the infantry rifle. Just as far as the basicness of the game goes, I think this is the weapon that would really kind of cross that distance and still feel simplified. I personally would be more than okay if that was added into the game, and I know a lot of people have been calling for something to kind of cover that distance. Now moving on to number 3, let's talk gliders. So again, relating back to mobility, gliders have been one of the things I've seen requested over and over. Epic tried to keep most of the items out of the game and just keep it basically weapons and heals, but gliders are something that I could see maybe actually feasible to return. And again, at the end of the day, it all comes down to mobility. Now, the ability to use a glider and build up really high in a fight and have 0 consequences for it getting broken down is a great thing, but a lot of people are just saying that they would like gliders to return to help them once again get to the circle. I think really mobility has been the biggest issue this season, so it's not surprising that these are all the things that people want back. Overall, I would say launch pads are the least likely to return, but maybe some sort of different glider might work. For example, maybe a glider that you can only use off the top of a mountain. And what I'm getting at is maybe like a parasail, an actual vehicle that's up on the top of a mountain that you can use to parasail down. This would kind of nullify the overly aggressive play, but again, make mobility a little bit better. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some sort of parasail enter in the game in the next few months. Now moving on to number 2, we've got the game mode 50v50. So I wouldn't be surprised if Epic just kind of trolled me and decided to throw this in at any point, but as of now, we actually haven't seen 50v50 back into the game. Now 50v50 was always peddled as a game where you work with your large team. But finally, I feel like there are the right mechanics in Fortnite that allow you to actually make this game work. And primarily that comes from the bandage bazooka and the ability to carry teammates. 50v50 could very well be reimagined and just significantly improved with these 2 features alone. Imagine if they added in like a medic class that you could choose where instead of fighting people, you are literally just a healer. Or literally just make it 50v50 but make the bandage bazooka heal like 50 health. That would be huge. But at the end of the day, because of all these additions, a lot of people have been suggesting that, you know, maybe it's time for 50v50 to return. Now, before we get down to our number 1 spot, let's talk honorable mentions. So first off, we've got patch notes. Epic hasn't really been consistently releasing patch notes at all, and a lot of people would like them to return. Now, the reason they removed patch notes is because so many people just read the patch notes and complain before they even play the game, and they were like, screw you. Play the game and then tell us what you think. So maybe it's not the worst idea to not give people patch notes the very second the new update comes out, but maybe they could drop it like a few days after. You know, promote the new stuff and then give you the nitty-gritty details in a few days and then let you kind of make your critiques. The other thing though that I wanted to mention are vending machines. A lot of people miss vending machines, but I don't know if those are going to make a return anytime soon. What I did have an idea for though was actually the return of a vending machine mechanic. So vending machines used to be like how upgrade stations currently are, where you would have to pay materials. And eventually they reduced the cost. So for a legendary vending machine, it used to be 500. They then reduced it down to 350 or I think 375. But then eventually what they did is they made the vending machine free and you only get 1 use. And a lot of people have been calling for this exact thing to happen. So it's not really something coming back, which is why it's in the honorable mention. But I really think that 1, they could quite easily lower the cost of materials for the upgrade station, or 2, just make it completely free and you only get 1 upgrade. Because as it stands, using 750 mats to go from a blue weapon to a purple is a little bit ridiculous. So personally, I think that would be a huge upgrade to the game and the whole way everything currently works. But ladies and gentlemen, number 1, I think since it's been removed, this has been like the most requested thing ever, maybe apart from launch pads, and it's Siphon. So every time that you kill a player, Siphon makes it so that you gain 50 health. The reason that Epic took Siphon out was because it encouraged aggressive play and the instant killing of teammates. But the reason that I think Siphon would actually work right now is that in its current state, Fortnite is pretty slow and doesn't really allow for aggressive play. Now, we do have Siphon in Arena, but a lot of people want it in public, or even a toned down version of it maybe. So maybe instead of when you kill a player, you get 50 health, toning it down to when you knock a player, you get 25. That way it would make it so that players aren't encouraged to thirst people right out the gates, kind of keep things a little more casual, but also, you know, you're rewarded for your kills. If you don't get a boat, you just spend so much time walking in this game, and I find myself in a lot of late game situations where I just don't have enough health. So while I totally understand that Siphon might not make a perfect fit back into the game, even like a sort of nerf version where you get 25 for a knock or something like that would be incredible. But anyways, at the end of the day, that's what I think. And what a lot of you guys actually seem to think too, which is what this video was based on. But with all that said, let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on what you want to see return, and what you think is actually realistic that might return. And lastly, guys, you have to subscribe to the channel, okay? If you're watching this on Halloween, yesterday was my birthday, and there's just not an option, okay? You have to hit that subscribe button. So I'll leave you to it. Also, leave a like, and go check out another video. I'll talk to you later. Peace out, you freaking nerds. No one's really calling for the pumps to be reverted back to double pump insane. However, I think that they could get a little bit of a nerf. No, sorry.